Right. Okay, we'll talk about it after. Good morning. Welcome to Koilel Baker. Those that are joining on Facebook, please share it with friends. Those that are joining on YouTube, please subscribe. Feel free to ask questions, comment. We will attempt to answer it either live or afterwards. There were once two children, we'll call them Moshe and David, who were always getting into trouble. Whenever something went wrong in the shtetl, you knew it was either Moshe or David, or both of them together, that were the cause of the issue. You know, a window broke somewhere, they must have been playing ball. Some flower pot got knocked over, it must be them. It was always their issue. The mother was really going crazy. What's she going to do about her children? And she can never get them to behave. They're getting older, they're not getting calmer. So she finally heard that there's a great rabbi that's coming to town. And this is a rabbi who's renowned throughout the world. She'll have him talk to them. So the rabbi comes, she gets an appointment, and she sends the older brother first, Moshe. Moshe goes in, and the rabbi looks at him very sternly and says, "Where's God?" This 9-year-old kid looks at him. And the rabbi gets even sterner and he shouts, "Where is God? I said, where is God?" And after the third time of the rabbi shouting at the top of his lungs, this Moshe runs out. He runs to his brother David and he says, "David, quick, let's hide. God's missing and they think we took him." We spoke yesterday about this parsha of Miraglim, of spies. Terrible story, rather, it ended terribly. Moshe Rabbeinu sends spies to check out the land of Israel. We're in the desert. And he sends them to figure out what's the best way to conquer, what are we up against, what type of people live there. Well, let's get some information. We discussed one angle of it yesterday, and like anything in Torah, there are 70 faces to Torah. There are many ways to understand it, and there's many elements and layers of explanation. And today I want to share something else about these spies, and more important than the historical element, but the message that it has for us. Every Shabbos, when we read in the Torah, and also on holidays, we have something called Haftarah. Haftarah dates back to the time, historically, when the government that was controlling the Jewish settlements, Jewish people rather, at the time, did not allow them to read from the Torah. You couldn't actually use a Torah scroll. And in order to maintain the study of Torah together, we know that the whole reason why we read the Torah in Shul is because Moshe Rabbeinu established that 3 days shouldn't go by without the reading of the Torah. That's why we do it in the Shul on Monday, and then again on Thursday, and then on Shabbos. You don't have 3 days that pass without reading from the Torah. So the enemies forbade reading of the Torah. We can't do it. So what our sages did was they took pieces of prophets, sections of the prophets, of Nevi'im, of Ksuvim. These are parts which were not under that law that forbade public reading of the scroll. And they established certain ones that were connected to the reading of that parsha. And they said, okay, this week we're going to read, for example, in our week we're talking about the spies that Moshe sent. There is in the book of Yeshua about the spies that Yeshua sent. So we're not reading from the Chumash about the spies, but we're reading from prophets about the spies, different spies, but also sent to Eretz Yisrael. And there's always a connection with the Haftarah to the parsha. Later, when this decree was abolished, or the Jewish people were finally able to read from the Torah scroll again, publicly, we still kept this custom. We didn't stop doing it because it's a positive thing. We actually make a blessing before and have special blessings afterwards. We kept that custom as well. So every Shabbos and every Yom Tov, when we read publicly in the Torah, we have the reading, and then we have the Haftarah, which we read from prophets. Again, with a bracha and so on. So this week, we're going to read about the spies that Yeshua sent. And I want to talk a little bit about the contrast between Moshe's spies and Yeshua's spies, because they're very different. The results are very different, and they give us some very important lessons for our own lives, our own serving Hashem, and things which we could apply immediately. The verse says that Yeshua sent Miraglim to spy out the land. He sent spies. Now, there's a discourse from the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, the author of the Tanya, who asks the following question, or mentions the difference between the spies that Moshe Rabbeinu sent and the spies that the Yeshua sent. If we look closely at the words of Hashem telling Moshe to send spies, he never really told him that he should send spies. It says, Shlach lecha, send to you, or send for you, messengers, spies. Right, but it says, Shlach lecha, Rashi tells us, the very first Rashi in our parsha, Lidaitecha, which means based on your idea, it's up to you. You're not commanded to go bring spies. If you want to send spies to Israel, I will allow it. In other words, Hashem said, okay, if you want. Think about it. Every other mitzvah that Hashem gave us, every other mitzvah, Hashem tells Moshe, do it. You don't find these optional type of mitzvahs that you find a couple ifs. If you'll do A, then the result is C. If you lend money, then don't do interest, for example. And we actually learn, our sages teach us, that it's not optional, it's a mitzvah to lend money to someone in need. But in general, when Hashem tells Moshe to do something, it's very straight, it's very strong, and it's obligatory. And here it said, it's up to you. Which begs the question, why did Moshe Rabbeinu do it? If you had this inkling that perhaps Hashem doesn't want it, and if he wanted it, he would say it on his own. And when I asked him if we should do it, he's like, it's up to you, right? Then why did he do it? And there are many teachings and explanations on this. One of them, then we'll get back to our topic, is that Moshe realized that the Jewish people are at a state because of they were slaves before, and they're traveling in the desert, and whatever other reasons that are going on in their psyche, but they tend to complain. And when they complain, they rebel. And when they rebel, Hashem gets upset. And we can't afford that the Jewish people should start to question Hashem. The Medrash gives a fascinating example of a used car salesman. Well, there was no cars back then, so it's about camels, donkeys. If you come to buy a donkey from your friend, you come to buy a donkey and you say, I want to buy your donkey. Could I buy your donkey? Sure. I want to test your donkey. I want to go for a test drive to make sure the donkey is good. Do you mind if I take this donkey for a test drive on the hills, where it takes a lot of effort for the donkey to go up and go down? He has to keep his balance. And I say, yeah, sure, go ahead. Do you mind if I take the donkey down in the valleys? It's different climate. It's a little bit harder. You got to go down. You got to go back up. Test it. Because I trust you that if you're so confident and you say, sure, take my donkey, then it's probably in a good condition. But if I came and said, can I take your car for a test drive before I buy it? And you said, I don't know about insurance. Let's stay on the side streets. I don't want to go on the highway. You say, I don't even need to take your thing for a test drive. You're hiding something. When the Jewish people, says the Medrash, came to Moshe and said, can we send spies like every normal nation that wants to conquer? We have to figure out what we're dealing with. If Moshe would say, nah, not necessary, Hashem is going to take care of it, the Jews may say, he's hiding something. He's afraid. He knows that if we find out what's really going on in Eretz Yisrael, then we're not going to go. So he's trying to hide the reality from us. So Moshe said, I better send the spies. They'll come back with a good report. So he thought. He sent the best of the best, the heads of the Nesiim, hoping that they'll come back, or very confident that they'll come back, and everything will be fine, right? Turned out a little differently. That's how Moshe Rabbeinu sent it. But this is when it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu sending spies, you find that Hashem said, it's up to you. I'm not commanding you to do so. However, when Yeshua sends spies, it's very different. It's the opposite. Hashem commands Yeshua, I want you to go send spies to Eretz Yisrael. Check it out. Okay? 40 years later, we're about to enter Eretz Yisrael. You would think that we're running from spies. We don't want to get anywhere near there. The whole reason why we ended up here for 40 years is because we sent Meraglim. Now that we have finally reached that level where it's a new generation, and we're going into Eretz Yisrael, Hashem comes along and says, Yeshua, spies. That's question number one, or difference number one between Moshe's spies and Yeshua's spies. Question number 2 is that when Moshe sent spies, or difference number 2, is that Moshe's spies went throughout the entire Eretz Yisrael. It says La'orka, to its length, U'lerachba, and to its breadth. They checked out the land. They spent 40 days there, literally going across the whole Israel and figuring out, doing their job. Let's spy, let's scout, let's analyze the situation. Yeshua's spies did not go all over Eretz Yisrael. They went just to Yericho, to Jericho. And from Yericho, they were able to figure out what's the status in the whole land. So 2 major differences. Moshe's spies go based on Moshe's idea. In other words, Hashem says, I allow it, but I'm not commanding you. And Yeshua's spies, they go based on a command from Hashem. And number 2 is that Moshe's spies go through the whole Eretz Yisrael, and Joshua his spies go only to Yericho. And another difference we could mention here as well is the amount of spies. Moshe has 12, Yeshua has 2.
And the quality.
Yeah, well, the results obviously were great. Yeah.
No. He didn't send leaders.
Right. Very good.
So the word,
Question,
the word used in Moshe, Tatu et haaretz. You're not supposed to be spy. You're supposed to
Inspect.
be a tourist. You're supposed to inspect the land.
I hear you. But Meraglim implies spying.
Yeah, correct.
But you're right. There are different
That's
ways
the
to
major-
read the message and how they went wrong and so on. But let's understand here. Questions, if they're short questions, we're doing them now as well. By the way, those that are watching online,
Okay.
if there are more comments and different explanations, we'll do it later.
It seems very precious that the spies are different with Yeshua but Moshe was a strategic issue. What's the whole setup?
Okay.
But Yeshua, it's a tactical issue. We know we're going to attack Yericho. We spend a couple guys to take out Yericho. All
Okay.
different.
We're not asking it so much as a question. We're setting up the contrast, and we're going to try to learn lessons.
One thing that's
From how
the
this
reason
works.
for contrast.
Very good. Okay. Appreciate it. It's a good point. The idea is like this. We have to first understand that every mitzvah of the Torah is eternal. Torah is not just a book of laws. It does tell us what to do and not to do.
Right.
Torah is not only a historic account. It has a lot of history, obviously, in it, since creation of the world, an important history. But what's even greater than laws and the history is Torah is from the term of hira'ah, which means guide, lesson, teaching. Torah is here, to teach us how we're supposed to conduct our lives. And that applies to every single mitzvah. Now, when Torah says put on tefillin, or keep Shabbos, or kosher, any mitzvah, obviously it applies for all time. But there's certain mitzvahs which seem like they were a temporary injunction, and how does it apply today, right? Go to Eretz Yisrael, have spies to spy out the land. Okay, we did it already. We're not meant to do it today. You and I are not meant to be spies and go to Eretz Yisrael or send spies. And yet we know that Torah is eternal. So it has to apply to all times, right? And every generation has some kind of implication. So how does sending spies from our parsha have a application to us today? So according to Kabbalah, and this is a fascinating idea, the person is a world. We're all a miniature world. And our goal here is to take Eretz Canaan, the land of Canaan, which is what Israel was before it was Israel. The Canaanites, the 10 nations lived there. And we have to transform the idol worshiping status into a holy status. It was, Hashem gave this land to the Jewish people as a gift, but it began with, I'm putting idol worshippers there, and the Jewish people will come in and will transform it from idol worshippers, from Canaan, from the unholiness, if you will, into a holy land, in the land that realizes what it really represents. What that means for us is in our own lives, we also have elements to ourselves. We'll call it the animal soul. We'll call it the physical side of us, which our goal in life is to transform that into Eretz Yisrael, into the land of holiness. Take your life, which is not holy per se, or the parts of it which are not spiritual, and infuse it with holiness. And there's a way to do that. So conquering the land may not apply today to us. It doesn't. But conquering your own life, taking control of your own situation, that does apply. And that we do have to do. We have to make ourselves vessels, receptacles, tools to receive godliness, holiness, spirituality. Just a basic example, when you take your arm and put on tefillin, or you use your hand to light Shabbos candles for girls and women, you're doing a mitzvah with your hand, right? When you wear garments and they don't have shatnez, they don't have the mixture of wool and linen, or you have tzitzis on your, whatever mitzvah you're doing, you're making yourself holy. Okay, so this is the goal. What's the difference between the whole land of Israel, in this analogy, and the city of Yerichai? If the goal is that you have to transform yourself and your personal land from Canaan to Israel, what's the difference between the whole land or Yerichai? So here's the idea. A person has many aspects to ourselves. We have our characteristics, what's known in Kabbalah as midos. There are emotions. Are we kind? Are we mean? Are we strict? Are we proud? It's our characteristics. And then you have the part of you which is your modes of expression. What you think, what you say, and what you do. Your thoughts is not you. It's what you're thinking about. Okay? Your speech, what you say, is not who you are really. It's what you're imparting. What you do is definitely not who you are really. It may impact that. What you say may be a result of how you feel and who you are, but it doesn't have to be. Okay? A person, you could look at someone and be very upset about what they did to you, and you could decide, I'm going to mull over, what's really wrong what they did to me. And I'm upset. And how could they? And that's awful. And they should have known better. And you're mulling it over and over and over. It's not you, it's what you're thinking about. And the same thing is speech. You could decide to tell them off, give them a mouthful for what they did, or not. And the same thing is action. You don't have to punch them in the face because you don't like them, because you're upset at what they did to you. It's different elements. These are not who you are. Thought, speech, and action is what you express. It's how you decide to go about to express yourself to others. It's not who you are per se. Okay? There are parts of you it's who you are. It's your soul faculties. You're kind. Now, if you're not kind, you can still do kind things. You could force yourself to do kind things, but kindness may not be your strongest side. And vice versa. You may have a hard time with disciplining somebody, right? You're a very kind person, but you get into a classroom with seven-year-olds, and now you have to implement discipline. It's not who you are, but you could do it. Okay, so your actions are not who you are. Yerichai, the land Yerichai, the city of Yerichai, is from the root word of reach. Reach means smell, aroma. Is a smell who you are? Is it part of you, or it's something external from you? So I'll give you an example, or a comparison. Food, they say you are what you eat. Your food becomes part of you. When you eat something and you take it inside, it becomes your flesh and your blood. That food that you ate, part of it becomes part of your body. A smell, let's say you put beautiful flowers here, and it's a nice aroma, and it's pleasant. It doesn't become part of you. It doesn't become part of your blood. It doesn't become part of your bones, your flesh. It's not food that you ate. It's an aroma. It's external to you. It's pleasant, but it's external to you. The same thing is your thoughts, speech, and action. It's not who you are. It's what you're doing. It's what you're expressing. Yerichai, reach, are these garments. They represent your thoughts, your speech, and your actions. So when we say that your land, your body, your life is a miniature Israel, And you're meant to transform it into a holy place. Change the status from Canaan to Yisrael. The way that's done, Yeshua went to Jericho. What he said was, focus on your three garments, your modes of expression. You don't have to go to the whole land in order to transform it. You don't have to figure out your emotive faculties and try to transform if you're kind or you're not kind. You have to focus on what you're thinking about, what you're saying, and what you're doing. That is step one, and that's applicable to everybody. Moshe Rabbeinu was a great tzaddik, right? Hashem says, "Licha l'daitecha." If you're going according to your opinion, according to your way, then you're sending people to the whole land of Israel. The whole land of Israel represents in the human, in the cosmic, in the micro level, it represents a person who's transforming themselves. That's a very hard level. Okay? We could all control our thoughts. We could. It's hard, but you can control your thoughts. We could all control what we say. Sometimes you slip, sometimes you feel bad, you regret, but you can ultimately control what you say. And your actions, for sure, you could control. You can't always control how you feel about something. It's much harder to change that. That's the level of tzaddik. That's the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's a higher level. Moses could control that. So when Moshe sends spies, l'daitecha, on your level, he says, guys, the whole land of Israel. I want you to go to the whole thing, meaning transform your entire life. The way you feel, the way your makeup of your soul, change it. Be a level of a tzaddik, be perfect. Achieve that. Yeshua is dealing with the next generation. And he says, we're going to go just to Jericho. Talk about spying, talk about analyzing yourself and figuring out what to change. Focus on your thought, speech, and action. Do that first. Okay? So let's summarize this for a moment. The reason why, according to Kabbalah, according to Chassidus, the reason why Moshe sends spies to the whole land, because spiritually sending spies means analyze yourself and change it. And Moshe is on a level which demands change your entire existence. It's a tzaddik level. Change even the way you feel, your midas, your emotions. Change your entire psyche. Yeshua, Hashem commands him to do it because he says, this I could command you. I'm not commanding Moshe to send spies and change your entire existence. It's very hard. That's a tzaddik level. Moshe could do it if he wants. But what I am commanding, says Hashem, is to change your thought, speech, and action. Your yericha, your aroma, your smell, your modes of expression. That you do have control and that you could do. It's effort. We have to work on it. It's not easy. But you could decide, I don't want to think about all those things that the person said or did to me. I want to push it out of my mind. I don't want to think negative. I don't want to have those feelings of jealousy or anger or resentment. I don't need it. Not good for me. There's no point. You could control it. We all know the famous story about the chassid who came to the Maggid of Mizrich, Baal Shem Tov, and he said, I want to learn how to control my thoughts. So he said, go to my disciple, travel to him, he'll show you. He gives him a name and a location, and he travels all the way there. And it was difficult travel. It was the winter. It took weeks. But he finally gets to this small, forsaken town. He finds the guy's hut. It's a shack. He knocks on the door, and he asks to come in. And there's no answer. So he knocks louder, and he hears voices inside. People are there. And it's bitter cold outside, and he's exhausted from his journey. And he's been wandering for who knows how long. He's just waiting to get inside. No answer. He's knocking and knocking for a while. Finally, the host comes to the door. Welcome. I'm so happy to see you. He brings him in. Come to the fireplace. Warm up. He gives him some tea. After a little bit, he says, why are you here? What brings you to town? He says, before what brings me to town, I got to tell you something. I was knocking and knocking and knocking. Why didn't you let me in? It's not... He says, what brings you to town? He says, what brings me to town? Our Rebbe told me that if I want to learn how to control my thoughts, I should come to you. He says, I taught you that already. What do you mean? He says, you knocked on my door to my house. I didn't answer. I decide who comes in, who doesn't. Your mind is yours. You decide what comes in and what comes out. The doors to your mind are what you hear, right? What you see. These things, what you read, what you look at, that feeds your mind. What you listen to feeds your mind. But even when you have this information, you decide when a thought pops into your head, think of it like a pop-up ad, right? You could decide, I'm going to go there or not. I may not be able to decide that it popped up, but I could decide what I'm doing next, right? A thought pops into your head. How could he? You could decide, I'm pushing this away, or to use the term of the Tanya, push it away with both hands. Thoughts are in our control. Hashem tells Yeshua, I'm commanding you to send spies to Jericho, to those 3 levels of thought, speech, and action, because that is fully in your control. You could decide what you think about. You could decide definitely what you say, and you can decide what you do. Thank you for joining. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
So
Hey, it's early.